If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to another episode of the Property Rebel with your host Arsh. And in today's session I'm going to be asking you a question, and hopefully I'm going to ask you to just help me out here with a bit of not a problem, but it's almost like a deal that I've come across, and I'm kind of questioning myself, should I do this deal or should I not? Before we do that, I want to say a quick hello to all listeners, all subscribers all over the world. Really hope that you're enjoying the podcast, really hope that you're taking a load of value away from it, and I want to say thank you for your continued support. So let's get straight into it. I got a property on a lease option, don't mind disclosing that to you, in Cornwall. So I took it on a 10-year lease option. So I do lots of different strategies in my property business. So I've got developments, so I'm currently building a couple of developments. I've got a piece of land that I've tied up on an option that we're going through planning gain. I own quite a lot of property, so I've got single lets, I've got multi-lets, I've got blocks of apartments, and I've got a rent-to-rent portfolio. In the company name, I've also got a rent-to-rent portfolio in my personal name. I've also got some lease options running through my company, and I've got some in my personal name. So the one that we're going to be talking to you about today is a lease option that I took in my personal name, but this was more so a lifestyle choice as opposed to a business decision. But actually it has done quite well. So let me give you a bit of a background. So someone approached me and said, Arsh, I've got this property down in Cornwall, great location. It's in an area called Porthtowan, which is in Truro, which is right on the coast. And they said, I want to sell the property below market value. And I thought, okay, yeah, we'll have a look at it. I've always liked the thought of having a second family home, somewhere where I can escape and get some fresh air, get out of the concrete jungle and go and spend some time down by the coast. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll be interested if the figures stack up. And we kind of looked at all the figures, and then I thought, okay, this looks interesting. But then I started to speak to the owner. Just so that you know, the owner of this property was actually based over towards Tokyo, so on the other side of the world. And I said, just out of curiosity, why are you so motivated to sell the property below market value? Because he was offering a 20% discount. And he goes, well, Arsh, he goes that, there's nothing wrong with the property. He goes that I just can't find anyone reliable to manage the property on a daily or monthly basis. Everyone that I find either ends up not paying me rent or struggled. And as a result of that, he goes, I'd rather now, he goes, I've got no mortgage on it. I'd rather just literally sell the property and then probably use that elsewhere. And I said to him, well, I'll tell you what, if I could come to you where I could give you a solution where it's going to be a guaranteed rent, you're not going to have to worry about that, and you're not going to lose money either, would that be of interest? And he goes, well, let's run through the figures. So we started running through the figures, and I put forward a proposal, and I think what I'd call a decent proposal, based on the fact that it was going to give him some income, it's going to give him no hassle whatsoever, it was going to allow me to take control of a property, and as a result of that, it would allow me to run the property at a decent occupancy level where it would make some money, pay the outgoings, and I could have a free second home, a holiday home. So I put some money into refurbing it. It was done very well anyway, but I wanted to create it as a high standard, because if I was going to spend quite a few weeks of the year down there, I'd want it to be a home from home. If I felt it was a downgrade from my current living standard of my current house, I wouldn't go there as often. So I took it up, and I made, we spent a fair bit of money on refurnishing it, getting some nice furniture in there, so that when I was there, I actually felt like, yes, this is a second home for me, and we'd use it a lot more. So that was my kind of rationale behind it. So that's been running really well for 2 years. We've let it out on Airbnb. We've been on Airbnb, Booking.com. I think we're on the Plum Guide. I think we're on Expedia. Everywhere that you can think of. My wife actually runs it from Wolverhampton, so this is her pet project. And as a result of it, it's worked really well. We're pretty much fully occupied most of the time. We've got the odd weekend here or there that's not. The first thing that we do, we make sure that we get our time in there. So we prioritize when we want to go, because that was the whole reason for us to do this. This was probably more lifestyle choice as opposed to a business choice. We like the thought of being in the UK. We like the thought that we can be from door to door within 4 hours. So anyway, that's been working really well. It makes money. I don't mind saying it makes some decent money. And after all outgoings, we found that, it does really well. So that is our only real service accommodation stroke holiday cottage, so holiday home, all in one. Now, whilst I was down there last time, a few weeks ago, just when lockdown eased and we were allowed to go and do maintenance to our second home, I went down there just to do some just minor bits and pieces, and I ran into the owner of a person. So we're sat on kind of a little holiday lodge, so it's got quite a few other properties. So they are purpose-built properties, but it's a holiday lodge, almost pretty much like a centre parks, best way of describing it. So we own a lodge on a compound. And I ran into an owner of someone that was selling 2 of their properties, literally within a minute's walk of my property. And we started talking, we started having a chat, and it came across that he's now looking to sell his 2 properties. He's got them on the market, he's got them on at a decent price. Now, I had the option on my property, I can buy the property almost at a price now, and I could still make approximately £40,000 to £50,000 on that property. So one of my thoughts was that, do I sell mine now and benefit from the capital gain? But I still keep coming back to the fact that this was not really a business transaction for me. This was a personal lifestyle transaction. So I have to kind of shift my mindset in between the two. Going back to it anyway, so this person said, yeah, I'm looking to sell. And I thought, well, whilst we're already here, we've already got 1 property and it's running quite well, we know the financials, do we take on another 2? The one that we've got is a 3-bed and it sleeps 6 to 8 people. The other 2 that we're looking at now are 2 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms, still a nice layout. So we looked around the properties, we had a chat with the owner, and I said to him, guys, I said, if I was to be interested in this, I wouldn't be buying them outright. I've got no intention of buying them outright, and if that's your intention, I'd suggest that you stick them on with an agency and see how you get on. Anyway, we started going through what a lease option or a purchase lease option would look like. And we've been going back and forth on email for the last couple of weeks. He is keen on doing something. However, the figures don't look as great as the one that we currently have. So the one that we currently have, the rent is a lot lower, but we are paying rent. So my thought process here is that the guy has said to me, he goes, Arsh, I'm happy to do a deal on the 2 properties. You'll be paying the full market value for them as of today. Well, let's just say of £235,000 each. So £235,000 each, and these are 2 bedrooms. Bear in mind that I've got a 3-bed, and mine's probably worth within the region of 250 to 270. So 235 for the 2-bed. And he goes, but I want you to be able to lease the property, but also have the certainty of the sale. And I've said to him, well, I will want a 10-year period. If that's what you want, I want a 10-year period. And we've kind of agreed, informally on the time frame, 10-year period. Now, the next thing that he says is that instead of me paying him rent, he wants me to do almost like an installment contract on, let's say, the 2 properties, so at 235,000 each, that would mean 470,000. So he wants me to do an installment contract on the 470,000 over a 10-year period. So if I do 470,000 and divide that, well, the one thing he also has said is that he wants a level of commitment. So he wants a commitment. Originally, he was asking for 30% deposit, and I said, no, that's not how we operate. Then he's came back down to 10%, and I think I'm going to probably go back with a counter offer of a 5% deposit. So 5% deposit of 470,000, sorry, I've got my trusty calculator here, is 23,500, which I think to take control of two properties, two-bedroom properties, which I'm then going to run as an SA or holiday let in that location, I don't think it's too bad. If you divide that by the two properties, works out at 11,750 per property. Now, based on the fact that I'm going to pay a 5% deposit, so 470,000 times that by 0.5 equals minus that from 470,000. So the balance is going to be approximately 446,500. Now, if I divide that by 120 months, which is 10 years at 12 months, it's going to mean that I'm going to have a liability. When I say a liability, I mean a payment of £3,720 a month. Now, my question, and if you divide that by two properties, it's approximately £1,800, nearly £1,900 a month each property. Now, my question, and the reason why I'm releasing this podcast is that would you do this based on the fact that at £1,900 a month, I don't mind disclosing that I'm paying pretty much half that for my 3-bedroom. So, but here, that what I'm paying is literally just rent. I haven't incorporated any purchase costs in there. So the 3-bed that I've got is just the 700. I think it's £700 or £800 a month rent. There's no purchase towards that. So when I do purchase it, I've got to purchase it for whatever we've agreed on the option price. Now this one here, what we're doing is that every month that I pay let's say £1,900 per property or £3,800 for the two, this is coming off the purchase of the property. So every month we're chipping away down towards the debt. So in essence, you can call it vendor finance. I know lots of people call it vendor finance, where the vendor is actually, in essence, giving you the mortgage. So we're not going through a mortgage company. He is, in essence, a mortgage, and I'm paying down the debt month by month. So I'm giving him a 5% deposit initially, then paying him £1,900 a month or £3,800 if I decide to take the two. What makes this kind of attractive for me is the fact that I've already got one property there, and we can possibly have two other properties on the same kind of compound, and it becomes almost like a mini business. More importantly, if I wanted to go down with family or more extended family, we could host them. So I'm looking at this from more so now business side, but also the extended benefits of having extended lifestyle down there. I could spend more time down there. Slight concern that I have is the fact that £1,900 a month is a large outgoing per property, but when I've looked at it, I've based my figures on 3,900. It would pretty much break even. So that rent is not, when I say rent, that payment is not going to make a lot of money. It'll break even. It'll make a little bit of money, probably break even. So, but my question is, do you now play this as a long-term game? Because bear in mind that this is all capital that you're paying down. It's not interest, it's not rent. So would you just work on the long-term plan that 10 years, by the end of the 10 years, you're now going to own two assets, which hopefully are going to be well in excess of 470,000. So it's not like you're buying a car and it's depreciating. You're putting money, it's almost like a piggy bank. You're putting money away, £1,900 a month or best part £4,000 a month over the two properties. Would you do this deal? Part of me is saying, yeah, Arsh, what are you thinking about? You know, you're putting that money into bricks and mortar, you're putting it into properties, and bearing in mind that that 4,000 is not all coming out of your pocket. You can have bookings. So, you know, there may be some months where it may be a bit short, but most of the time, or a large majority of the time, it should pay for itself. So working on, I've looked at our bookings over the last year. Well, I kind of can't work off the last year just purely because COVID, we had lots of grants, and we had really very low bookings, or any bookings that we did have, we had to cancel because of COVID. However, we looked at the previous year. Previous year was quite healthy. So I kind of work on the basis that, do we just stick to the one and keep the one, or do we take on the additional two based on the fact that it's going to make money? Well, it's going to make a bit of money, but it's going to break even. But we play the long-term game that, in actual fact, we're not going to make the money here, but we're going to then own two properties, which hopefully are going to have paid for themselves. So we're having this little, my wife and I are having this conversation. Do we take the jump, and do we take them? Because normally I would take properties if they're making money. These generally will probably break even if I'm being realistic. And I've been very conservative on the numbers. I've worked on around a 50% occupancy, even though I know that my 3-bed was working at around an 80 to 90% occupancy. So I am being very conservative. I'd rather be conservative than optimistic and throw. I don't want to say that, yeah, it's going to make a shed load of money and then find that we're not. I'm very risk averse like that. So it'd be interesting. I'd like to get your feedback on this. Would you do this deal? Would you do this deal based on the fact that you know that you're going to be paying around £4,000 a month, 2,000 a property, and it may break even. Some months it may lose some money, some months it may make money, but over the year, in theory, you should pretty much break even. But look at the long-term plan, is that you're going to have two assets which are going to be completely debt-free, no mortgage at the end of the 10 years. Would you do this deal? I'm still 50-50. I know that the person would be keen to work with me. He thinks that I'm a good person to have on side. And I think it's a good location. You know, I think it's an area that is only going to get busier and busier. I know, just to give you a bit of a background, the compound, I'll call it a compound, it's not a great word for it, but I'll call it a compound. The compound that we're on also has planning permission for further units to be built. So it's going to become more of, an interesting. We're right next to a blue certified sea, so we're right at the court. We're by Porthtowan Beach, which is a very famous beach, and we get lots of surfers go down there. So in terms of demand, I don't think we're going to struggle for renting the properties. It's just a case of whether I want to take on this commitment for 10 years. If I was buying a property, I'd go back to my point that if I was buying a property and I had a mortgage, I'd be committing myself to 25 years anyway. So I think kind of answer my own question going through this podcast. If I bought it, I'd be committing myself to 25 years, and I can't. My only way out is by selling the properties there. However, what I could probably put in the contracts here is a assignable clause. So we could probably assign it to someone else, or we could, if the market was to increase or appreciate, we could probably sell the properties. So it'd be interesting. So I think, having thought this through, and I like doing podcasts like this because it gives me the opportunity to explore all the options and talk it out loud. But I think it's something that I'd like to run with. But it'd be interesting to see what your thoughts are. Would you do it knowing that you're not really going to make money, but you're going to own two assets at the end of it? So you're going to play the capital, you're going to have two assets that the best part of £500,000 debt free in 10 years. So these could be left to my daughters or whatever it may be. So I'd really like your opinion on that. Please feel free to email in at admin@arshilahi.com or catch up with me on social media. So let's go through this. So if you want to catch up with me on social media, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter under the handles of Arshilahi. More importantly, if you like more free content like this, I've got a very active YouTube channel. Find me under the handle of Arshilahi, and I release new videos every Thursday at 4 p.m. Finally, to see kind of deals like this, you're probably thinking, well, I would do this deal. Arsh, give me this deal. We get deals like this all the time. Why don't you check out the Property Investor app? It's the UK's first property investment platform, which showcases all kinds of deals all over the country. So if you've got a smartphone, all you got to do is go to the App Store, type in Property Investor and download it. It'll take you 2 minutes to register, and you'll see all the deals in the palm of your hand. If you're not too smart on your smartphone, you can go to your website, which is www.propertyinvestorapp.co.uk. So guys, really appreciate all your help on this. thank you in advance. But more importantly, I want to hear from you. Would you do this deal, yes or no? More important, you might want to take one of these off me. You might say, Arsh, I'll tell you what, you take one, I take one, and we can have a chat about that. As always, I wish you all to be safe, well, and happy, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.